There was a huge scam that could have impacted millions of healthcare workers. It was a COVID-19 mask scam. This big scheme was set up, but it was busted up by federal investigators. Julie Grant has more tonight.
With surgical masks and other personal protective equipment in short supply, scammers see criminal opportunity. But federal agents are already on the lookout.
We knew we needed a robust response and put a team together of all of our best agents from federal and state agencies to begin to investigate and attack frauds as we identified them.
Scott Brady is the United States Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania. His task force in Pittsburgh led the effort in disrupting an international fraud scheme aimed at selling 39 million N95 masks to major healthcare companies.
Fraudsters are trying to get upfront payments for the purchase of scarce PPE that doesn't exist. And so in this case, they were looking for a 40% upfront payment.
U.S. Attorney Brady's office began investigating when their task force got information a Pittsburgh businessman was trying to broker the deal.
As it turns out, the overseas components were fraudulent. He was connecting to what he believed to be a business person, a broker in Sydney, Australia, who had identified a warehouse and a store of 39 million masks in Kuwait. And so he was trying to middle a deal where he would purchase them from this broker in Australia for $3.50 a mask and resell them to Kaiser Permanente and some of the other healthcare systems for $5 a mask.
From there, agents learned the masks were purported to have been manufactured by the company 3M, with some being stored in a warehouse in Georgia.
And so we worked with the FBI in Atlanta to try to find this warehouse. We had information there that a portion of the 39 million masks might be in that warehouse.
Investigators found the warehouse didn't exist, and neither did the masks. A fraud scheme was the only thing in place.
So we were pleased that we were able to disrupt this. There was no money that was lost.
Kaiser Permanente had placed an order for 6 million masks at $5 a mask. That could have been a $12 million fraud.
They were able to execute transactions and a 40% upfront payment on the full 39 million. That could have been a $78 million fraud.
The investigation continues into identifying the broker in Australia and the supplier in Kuwait. The Pittsburgh businessman is not believed to have been part of any fraud conspiracy.
Unbelievable. Let's bring in Julie Grant. Julie, I'm looking at this and I'm like, that could be a real problem because resources are as scarce as they could be. You're relying on this that's going to save healthcare workers, and there was nothing there.
Right. Oh, exactly, Vinny. I mean, it's just appalling. It's appalling that these scammers want to take advantage of people in the toughest of times. And these scammers, they think they're smart, but as we saw with this case, the feds are much smarter, and they were really 2 steps ahead of them because they've seen these types of schemes rise up before. You know, think about Katrina, the financial crisis of 2008. We see these scams just kind of being reinvented and repackaged, and the feds were ready. They had their task force already in place, ready to work and look for this type of thing and to shut it down before somebody was truly. I mean, could you imagine these companies shelling out millions of dollars for masks to protect their workers, the brave doctors and nurses on the front lines, and then the masks don't exist? And then the companies are out those millions. Just atrocious.